Magandang araw po, Doc Willie, Doc Lisa. We have a special guest. Nako, mahirapan tayo sa English. We have to talk in English. My guest comes from the US.
Yes.
He's a Fil-Am. Doon ka na pinanganak.
Hindi po.
No,
dito po.
dito, but at what year old you were there?
Opo.
And you became a doctor.
Yes.
Maybe you can tell them.
Sure. So I grew up in the United States, but I became a doctor in the United States as well. I came back to the Philippines for a research fellowship called the Fulbright, and that's when I became very passionate about Filipino health all over the world.
Both of your parents are Filipino?
Opo, both are Filipino.
Okay. And you've trained in neurology.
Yes.
So neurology, specialist sa utak, stroke,
No.
Alzheimer's, etc.
Exactly.
For 4 years.
For 4 years.
What school and what training are you having now?
Sure. So I trained at UCSF School of Medicine and did my neurology residency po sa New York Presbyterian Weill Cornell sa
Okay.
Manhattan at saka yung Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center.
And for 2 years, you're doing fellowship in public health.
Yes, at
Yeah, and
UCLA.
Kaya po siya nandito, main interest niya sa Philippines. And you were parang given an award to come back to the Philippines?
Yes,
You are one of 15, but maybe the only doctor?
Yes, I'm the only doctor, the only physician in this group. It's called the Phil-Pro program, Filipino Young Leader Program.
Okay, so your problem, Dr. Tony Moya, is to solve all the health problems of the country.
I think in partnership with everyone
I'm sure
here.
they're all asking.
Yes.
You told me you're single, right? Right?
Yes.
Okay, I have millions of followers who would like to get your number. Anyway, ano bang bago sa stroke? Is there something parang huwag mo kami inggitin. I know we're all jealous, but you talk about instant care, mobile
Yes.
stroke units.
Yes.
And you have lots of Fil-Am patients. Maybe
I
just
do.
share about your healthcare there.
Sure.
And some basic tips for our
Sure.
viewers. Okay,
So in the United States, there's treatment for stroke. It's called TPA, Tissue Plasminogen Activator.
Clotbuster.
It's a clot buster, exactly.
Okay.
But what's important sa medication na ganun, you have to give it within a small time window.
Okay.
So from the moment you have your stroke, you have within 3 to 4.5 hours to administer that medication.
And you can do it in the States.
You can do it in the States. You can do it in the Philippines also, actually, in select stroke centers. So the Stroke Society of the Philippines has designated certain areas, certain hospitals that can give this medication.
So how much is it?
Right now, it is about 60,000 pesos on average in hospitals here. But the cost of the medication is actually less in hospitals that are government hospitals. So they cut that in half to about 30,000 pesos. Right now, there is a movement, actually with Dr. Epifanio Colliantes and the Stroke Society of the Philippines, to really push for it to be more free for people who have stroke here in the Philippines.
Okay. And you also have a study on culture and why Fil-Ams in general don't go to the hospital
Exactly.
as quickly as they should.
Exactly.
It's the same here in the Philippines. Anong kinalabasan? What happened to your study?
So, I'll tell you about the study. We looked at Filipino Americans sa Los Angeles pa. We did focus groups at saka semi-structured interviews.
Okay.
And what we found out is that there are many cultural barriers that stop Filipinos from calling 911. Halimbawa, this whole belief of bahala na, God will provide. If God wants you to have a stroke, then that's going to happen. That's like, you don't have control of that.
You don't have to do anything.
When in fact, actually, stroke is a disease where you have to do something immediately. You need to get help in a hospital immediately because every minute of your stroke, you lose about 2 million brain cells.
2 million brain cells every minute.
Yes. So
And
you have to go
they
to the
get
hospital.
paralyzed, one hand, one feet.
Exactly. So the way to remember it is there's the acronym. Have you heard of FAST?
Yes, fast.
So F stands for face. Any facial drooping, that could be a stroke. Or A stands for arm weakness. If one part of your arm is not weakening, that could be a stroke. S stands for difficulty with speech. So if you're nabubulol, that could be a stroke too. And then the T stands for time. Time is brain. Time for you to call the emergency immediately because there's something that we can do to potentially reverse the stroke.
Any tips for Filipinos? How do they prevent stroke?
Yeah, definitely.
Aside from the usual high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, is there something new? You're talking about alcohol. A lot of Filipinos drink alcohol and they get cerebral hemorrhage.
Yeah,
It's
you know,
common, like nagbi-bleed, dumudugo ang utak.
Opo.
Dahil sa kakain ng mga alak.
especially
We see lots of that.
especially amongst Asians, Asians both in the Philippines and the US have a higher risk
Of brain
compared to
hemorrhage.
white people of having bleeding in the brain. Yeah, brain
Why?
hemorrhage. That we are trying to find out, but what I think based on the data is that it's linked to high blood pressure. So high blood pressure, they call that really a silent killer, diba? Because you don't know if you have high blood pressure unless you actually check it.
Okay.
I know that you said, the typical things, the high blood pressure, the diabetes,
Yes.
high cholesterol, those are so important. But the thing that people don't actually realize is that 80% of strokes can actually be prevented by your lifestyle alone.
Yes, I've been telling them that 80%, it's the best medicine, right?
Yeah, prevention,
So
smoking.
maybe
right?
you can repeat it.
Yeah, sure. So
How about vaping?
vaping, there has to be more evidence about that right now, but smoking for sure increases your risk of stroke.
Okay.
And more, we're actually seeing in the United States that vaping has been associated with some unhealthy outcomes as well. We're still exploring that right now, but for my own patients, in the United States, I tell them not to vape at the moment.
Okay. How about other risk factors? Like in the Philippines, we have air pollution.
Yeah. There are studies related to that as well, but again, the studies more or less are inconclusive about that. The things that we really have control of is the amount of salt that we put in our diet, which could be linked to high blood pressure. The amount of sugar we have in our drinks, like sodas or anything like that, can also put you at risk for other types of diseases.
Tony, I have lots of Fil-Am followers.
Yeah.
Are Fil-Am Filipinos, are they more prone to drinking more soda? And
It's hard
fatty
to
food,
say.
McDonald's.
I know when I go back to the
When they go back,
US,
they're gonna get mad at you.
we have Jollibee also in the US. Depende rin sa part. In Los Angeles specifically, we have a lot of Jollibee. But I think that more and more we're trying to add more vegetables to our diet. And I don't think that it's something that is very difficult to do. Even if you try to add a little bit of vegetables each meal, that's small steps towards a better change. I know it's not the most popular thing to talk about, but the things that I talk to my patients about is 3 simple rules. So number 1, if you can, eat real food. So parang it's not from a packet, it's not from a box. It's something you would find in the produce section, like vegetables or fruits. The second thing, mostly plants. If you could try to reduce your consumption of salty meats and things like that, processed foods, that'd be better. And then the third rule is just enough. So kind of my life hack is
Just
instead of
enough.
a huge plate, get a smaller plate, like a medium-sized plate, and fill that with food. And you can maybe psychologically trick yourself into eating less food. Have more conversations with your family at the dinner table. Drink more water. Those are just some of the hacks that you can do to live a healthier
A
lifestyle.
lot of my followers are philosopho. You know what's philosopho? They will just say, I will just eat several times using a small plate. Or lots of my followers, they listen to all of my videos,
Of course.
but they don't follow. It's like they're just happy listening.
You know, that's why I think behavior change is the most difficult thing
Okay.
to really tackle amongst people in general, whether you're Filipino or American. But I think that the small little changes every day adds up to something big. Actually, our project in the US is to make the like a teleserie about different health disorders. health diseases.
Teleserie, like a movie?
Kind of like a small 5-minute video. Stories
Okay.
about
Short film.
Yes, about Filipino faces, Filipino lives, and health, because we're not often talked about.
What's that for?
So it
To
is
change their lifestyle?
exactly to better inform Filipinos all over the world that there are steps that we can take to improve our health. It's not bahala na. There's actually concrete steps that we can take every day to improve our health, and it actually makes a difference.
So what's your plan? I mean, this is a hard question.
Yeah.
You're gonna be going here every few years?
Oh, I would love to. So
Okay.
my plan is to continue to practice neurology in the US and serve the Filipino community both in the US and also in the Philippines. So I'm trying to make as many contacts here in the Philippines as
How
possible.
can you do that?
Somehow, some way, you make it happen. So almost every year I go back to the Philippines and I stay in touch with my neurology mentors here sa Manila and other places of the Philippines. But really, I want there to be an exchange of medical knowledge. You know, the US and the Philippines have so much medical knowledge to share. And Filipinos really are so talented when it comes to knowledge and creating new media for health. So I don't think that it's just the US, you know, contributing to the Philippines. I think the Philippines has a lot to teach the US in terms of health and family and things related to spirituality.
Any final message to Fil-Ams and those OFWs?
Yeah.
Any message? I'm sure they're watching.
I think that it's really time for us to change the culture of the Philippines. We're not just a culture of fiesta and eating lots of food. We're also a culture that could be that of health. And it really takes those small steps like eating more vegetables, eating less food, and then really spending time enjoying the food with your family to lead to better health. My dream actually is that when you think of Filipino culture, you actually think of health. That we are
What
amongst
health?
the
Like,
healthiest.
I'm sure you can see that lechon over there.
I do see it.
Yes.
I think we have good lechon, but we also have good gulay, we have good vegetable dishes. We actually have some of the freshest ingredients,
Yes.
organic. In the country. It's just that we have to make that more evident in our
Okay.
parties and in the media as well.
Okay, thank you. Final words,
No.
Dr. Tony?
I'm just very thankful for this
Good luck.
opportunity.
Good
Yeah.
luck. And I hope you continue your mission, and
Thank
maybe someday, you know, our paths will cross again.
Oh, I'm
Okay?
sure they will.
Maraming
Thank
salamat
you
po.
again.
Thank
Maraming
you.
salamat po.
God bless.
Thank you.